The Democratic Party is a big tent party. We have conservative Democrats, we have centrist Democrats, we have progressives, and we have these leftists. We want everyone to be in that party, and that includes Zoran Mamdani.
Well, the chairman of the Democratic National Committee there may be embracing a big tent, but that tent is leaning socialist/communist, as I like to say. There's a whole lot of communism there. Republicans are using New York City mayoral nominee Zoran Mamdani against his own party as a political weapon. They're going after what they're now calling Mamdani Democrats. One New York State assemblyman says this.
Here in New York, the Democratic Party has been marching to Zoran's Marxist drumbeat. Mamdani's Marxist drumbeat. It's been an upsetting view from this side of the aisle. He's had a score of horrible policies, the ones you see about the grocery stores, making sure everything's free for everyone in the city, freezing the rent, raising the taxes. This is the kind of message he thinks can win an election on a national scale, and a lot of Democrats agree with him.
The National Republican Congressional Committee has also launched ads targeting Mamdani's allies who were running for Congress. Mamdani is one of 4 progressive Democratic newcomers who are shaking up mayoral races this year, and the others are in Minneapolis, Seattle, and Albuquerque. Axios sums it up this way. Democratic incumbents are not going down without a fight. The reaction by the Democrat Party to the progressive upstarts could dampen or galvanize left-leaning voters ahead of the 2026 midterms. So in other words, they don't know what's going to happen. I don't know, throw all the crayons, at the wall and embrace a communist, see if it works. In focus, Veterans on Duty chairman and former Army intelligence captain Jeremy Hunt and former Biden director of message planning Meghan Hayes. Great to see you both. Meghan, is that a plan? I mean, do you even want to toy with this sort of thing, or has your party decidedly gone that far left?
No, I don't think so. I think that some of these cities do want to go a little bit further left. What works in New York City is not going to work other places in the country. But I don't think that the Democratic Party as a whole in the entire country is moving that far to the left. I just don't think that's realistic.
It's interesting. It may work here. What you're talking about, the politics, you couldn't possibly be talking about what it's like to live here if this comes to fruition. Jeremy, give us an idea of what that might look like.
Well, I mean, frankly, it will be much of a disaster. I mean, if you look at the kind of Mamdani blueprint right now, he's basically inspiring a lot of these young Democrat candidates to get out there and come up with an old socialist idea that hasn't worked, free grocery stores, and then just kind of repackage it with the 2025 marketing, and then try to sell that to really vulnerable voters who are desperate for change. And I think it's a sad type of approach. And unfortunately, now we're seeing a lot of these kind of copycat candidates propping up all over the country, basically having the same play. They have realized that the #1 way to become famous in the Democrat Party is to come up with these radical ideas, make promises you can't keep, and then try to sell it to people who are very vulnerable. And unfortunately, with such a leadership vacuum at the top of the Democrat Party, we're seeing these new radicals showing up to suck up all the oxygen.
And that brings me back to you, Meghan, because I know you say, no, this won't catch fire across the country. So what are you going to do when money starts to flow in against some of those more moderate incumbents in your party, and they do catch on? I mean, Mamdani didn't just win by a couple of points here in New York, and you say, well, those are just a few blue cities. They're the biggest ones in the country. What are you going to do about that, or does that not matter? Do you care or not care how you win?
No, I think it absolutely matters. And I do think at the end of the day, Mamdani has identified a lot of really incredible problems that we have with affordability, but his solutions are not achievable, and they're not achievable in New York City, to be clear, and they're not achievable in the rest of the country. And so I just think that when donors and other people start to look at it, most people do not want a government-run grocery store. Most people understand that it's not a solution. People do not want their taxes raised, whether they're extremely wealthy or middle class or poor. They do not want their taxes raised across the board. So running on a platform to raise taxes is not going to work. I am not convinced he's going to run in New York or win in New York City. I'm sorry, and I'm not convinced that his message will work there or elsewhere. So
who would you pick instead? Would you go for Cuomo or Eric Adams?
That is a great question, and I'm lucky I don't have to make that decision because I no longer live in New York City. I'm back in D.C.
Yeah, whoever it is going to have a big voice in your party, though. That's why I ask it, too. All right, Democrats plan to seize their downtime next month to hit red states to try to win over voters. On their list, Nebraska and Arizona. The new tour, dubbed We Won't Back Down, will feature top progressive lawmakers like Massachusetts Senator Elizabeth Warren and Texas Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett. But Senator Mark Kelly acknowledges their messaging problems. Watch this.
We certainly do have a problem, and it's a messaging problem. And it's important to get out there and talk to people about the issues that they care about.
Okay, a new Wall Street Journal article finds Republicans leading in top election issues. That poll also finds 63% of voters have an unfavorable view of the Democrat Party. That's their lowest rating in 35 years. Here's former host Chris Matthews.
To be honest with you, the country is moving towards Trump. I think his strength is still greater than the Democratic strength. He is a stronger public figure than the Democratic people. I mean, Obama still has tremendous charisma, but Trump has strength. And I think that's what all voters look for. But they want a president who is a strong figure. And he's got it. And he can, it's just there. And half the country buys it.
Jeremy Hunt, your reaction.
Yeah, I can't think of a better example of the dysfunction in the Democrat Party than having, you have the chair of the DNC saying we have to work on our messaging, and then at the same time they're sending in Jasmine Crockett to try to do the messaging in a very, very much a battleground state like Arizona. I mean, look, it's honestly really unfortunate because if you look at the communities in Arizona, people who are desperate for change, a lot of folks who are kind of on the margins that might go either way. When you come in there with political entertainers who are just going on tour and especially with the slogan like "Let's F around and flip the house." I mean, something just so profane and ridiculous. They want people who are actually going to bring results and actual policymakers. But instead, I wonder how much better would our country be if we had political leaders who cared less about chasing clout on social media and more about chasing clout in the communities that they serve. But where we're at right now is that we live in an era of political charlatans who are just looking for more clicks and more likes instead of actually earning the respect of the people that they serve. Well,
look, if they are looking for something other than clicks and all of that, why in the world would they send in Jasmine Crockett would be my question. But Megan Hayes, I'm sure you can't answer that one. Obama has more charisma. Trump has more strength. That from Chris Matthews. What do you say?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that one thing that was really poignant that Chris Matthews said is Donald Trump has a lot of strength. He does have a lot of strength in the national party, but the Democrats are actually winning and doing really well in down ballot races. They've overperformed in 34 out of 37, either won or overperformed in key races since the election. So it just goes back to all politics are local, and what works in one community might not work in the other. And the Republican Party might have a very strong national leader, but does it have strong leaders in their communities and where it matters to flip the House?
Interesting. You said they've either won or overperformed. Those can be mutually exclusive. But OK, we'll get into that another day because maybe they didn't win that many, but they were overperforming, not losing as badly as they thought they would.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.